Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to Don't Fret with me, Martin, and howdy doody. Yes, I just said howdy doody. So what? What of it? Today, what a day. So much better than yesterday. So if you saw yesterday's video, you would have seen that I was in a funk. I was in a pretty low space and I was working through a few things with regards to hitting my upper limit and limiting beliefs that I was having. Today is a very, very different day. And I've considered why today is different, and I've kind of narrowed it down to three core things that have happened between yesterday and today that have led to today being very different. That's what we're going to talk about. So without further ado, roll the credits. So the first one I want to talk about is making a decision. And that sounds like a simple process, right? And I can tell you it is not a simple process. Because you can make a cognitive decision or you can make a decision that really, really matters. And I've made a million decisions in my life that have not come to anything because I'd said the words in my head, but I hadn't felt the decision. I hadn't made that internal commitment to change or to doing something. Don't get me wrong, there have been also a significant number of circumstances where I really have made that full-bodied commitment to change. And there are so many times over the past few years where I've kind of said, oh yes, I will change, particularly around things like diet and exercise. That I'll be like, oh yes, I'll do this, but only in here have I made that decision, not in here. And last night I changed that decision and made a full-bodied choice, a full-bodied commitment to change. And ultimately it involved a very, very significant heart-to-heart with my partner Rebecca, where she did this really, really short technique, and she asked me to imagine being 90 years old. And me being 90, asking myself, begging my 36-year-old self is to do the thing, right? Is to do the thing so that when I'm 90, I can feel one way instead of another way. I could feel enriched, empowered, like I've had an amazing life. I can feel grateful for my life instead of regretful. So my 90-year-old self asking me to do the thing that I need to do to make sure that happens. And ultimately, it comes down to pain and pleasure, right? If you could fully visualize the pain of not doing the thing that holds you back, right? The pain of accepting your limiting beliefs, and imagine what that will look like in 10, 20 years if you hold on to those limiting beliefs, and the pain that you will feel in 20 years time, and visualize that, truly visualize that, versus the alternative. If you visualize what will be happening if you break through those limiting beliefs. You can imagine how amazing life could be in 10, 20 years' time if you break through. And that was number one, make a decision. Number two I've written down here is get support and surrender. So as part of that commitment today, I've given myself over to Rebecca. I've given myself over completely to Rebecca's whims. So what you may not know about Rebecca is she is incredibly studious and committed when it comes to habits. She has some incredible habits throughout her day, and she's very, very much dedicated to well-being for herself and for others. So knowing that I can give myself over to her and she will find the best way that to create habits for my life and things that work for me. So very much kind of said, I'm yours today to mold and play with as much as you want. So I've surrendered to her whims and thoughts. Whims is probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean. And also what that's meant is because I love her, I don't want to let her down. So I have an ultra level of accountability to making sure that I deliver on her requests and don't go in half-heartedly. So get support and surrender to that support is absolutely huge. That whole idea of being accountable to someone is a massive motivator. So that's number 2, get support and surrender. And number 3 is commit to action. This is something that I learned through attending several Tony Robbins seminars, is never leave the site of a decision without committing to action. So, like so many times that I've kind of made those cognitive decisions, it's been like, okay, so tomorrow I'll do this, or later on I'll do that, and then I go back to my old habits instantly of eating bad or not exercising or playing video games or whatever it might be. It could be a million things. But not taking that instant action already allows you to fall sideways on the commitment that you've changed. And as soon as you kind of like rounded off the edges of your commitment, then you start to let a few more things ease out. Oh, it's just one takeaway. It's just one pizza. And all of a sudden we've started to make allowances for the commitment that we've made. So instead of allowing those allowances in for the first moment, is take action. So that's what I did today. And we've used 5 pillars of well-being that Rebecca has. And I've committed to several different actions. I've written a list of actions across those well-being things to do today, combined with the commitment to decision and the accountability. Those are 3 core steps that I've taken to go from yesterday's funk through to today's empowerment. So once again, just quickly run through those 3. Number 1, make a decision. And visualize the pain if you allow yourself to stick with that limiting belief, versus the pleasures if you've broken through that limiting belief and make a decision. Number 2, get support and surrender. Right, that level of accountability, find an expert, find someone to model, surrender to their way of thinking, so you're not putting your own biases on it, and making sure you're accountable to someone that you just feel like you can't let down. That could even be yourself, right? I prefer an external motivator. And number 3, commit to action. Make sure the first step that you take is action towards that decision, not away from that decision. And it can be a small action, just don't do it tomorrow, do it now. So those are the 3 steps that I've taken today. Those are what I'm working on, and I'm going to have one hell of a day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!